Comparison price for Friday, September 12th, 2025 is a presentation of Bet365. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio, built by Arbor Lee here at the historic Wall Center, downtown Vancouver. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Matt Sekeres alongside Blake Price, four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogers, and hitting switches and conducting things. In fact, we had a chance to visit our local Pacific Toyota dealer yesterday.
Yeah, we did.
And test drive that 2026 Prius plug-in hybrid.
So fun. Took it for a little spin.
This is a new generation of car, the fifth generation hybrid Prius.
And you have to see the new design. Like, it's a sports car.
The profile very much looks like a sports car. I mean, very handsome lines on this vehicle. It must be said. Spacious. It's loaded with safety features. Intuitive dash. Clean. Navigable. Blake got to drive again.
It's a lot of fun.
I let him drive.
This weekend, we've got Whitecaps, Lions, Seahawks,
and Canucks.
Jays, Mariners, and Canucks.
And a super fight, which we will get into later, and the Canadian women's national rugby team.
Yeah.
World Cup quarterfinal. World Track and Field Championships with a bunch of British Columbians going for gold medals and in some cases defending their Olympic championship.
Tell your loved ones you'll be found on the couch.
And Sunday it's supposed to rain, so perfect.
Yeah.
As my brother said to me yesterday, I don't care about the weather on Sundays anymore.
That's right.
Affects him not. I'm getting up, I'm having breakfast, I'm watching the NFL, and, sometime after 8:30, I'll probably just head to bed. Our poll question, presented by the Redwoods Golf Course. The Canucks have Thatcher Demco and Kevin Lankinen from the start this year and an improved defense score. Will you be satisfied if they rely on low-scoring wins to make the playoffs? You can vote yes, you can vote no. Do so at the Sekeres and Price X and YouTube channels. Blake Price.
If this was a team like the Buffalo Sabres, say, I think it's 95, 98% yes. They just need to make the playoffs. This not that the playoffs have become boring in Vancouver, but they have been there somewhat recently, and enjoyed success winning a playoff series in that. So I think it's a little bit different of an equation here for the Canucks than in some other slightly more desperate markets. And I think the fact that the Canucks are coming off of a brief era, but an era nonetheless, where they were pretty exciting. Like when you had, particularly if you go back far enough to Horvat, but even just Miller-Pettersson, Hughes, that's an offensive engine with accoutrement like Brock Besser around. Like, they were fun for a bit here, folks. This is probably not going to be that. Doesn't mean they can't have more points than those guys, but it's not going to be that. So to me, that's sort of the inspiration for the poll question is, does that matter to you? Because you're not as desperate again as the Sabres fan. I'm going to guess that fans are still going to say they're okay with it, though. I still think they are. Yes. We've talked about the festival that hockey is in April, and I think they want to punch a ticket to that festival. They don't care how.
I think you're right. The early voting suggests that. Look, when you've had more than a decade of struggles, and the Vancouver Canucks have not been a very good team for 10-plus years. A couple of toe dips in the Stanley Cup playoffs, one because of the expanded field during the COVID year. I think it's all just about winning and getting back to the dance.
But the no vote is bigger right now than I would have guessed. I would have guessed it was bigger. So early voting right now, it's almost at 30% no. That's surprising.
Well, yeah. The other thing I'll say is, of course, we know that so much rides on this year, including Quinn Hughes' continuing future in Vancouver as a member of the Canucks. So I think that adds into this equation. I think people are deliberating on that as well. And I get it entirely, right? Now, I do principally, philosophically, believe in what Mike Gillis said many, many years ago when he took over the Vancouver Canucks. And, of course, they had that famous Gatineau summit with head coach Alain Vigneault, where Mike basically said to Alain, do you think you can change the way you play to a more puck possession offensive brand of hockey? Because I believe that's what the consumer and the Vancouver Canucks fans ultimately want. And I do think it's a shorter shelf life, Blake, to win games in a 2-1, lock it down tight, not very much open ice or freewheeling hockey manner.
Shelf life for like, just success in that term?
No, shelf life in terms of continuing to engage fans,
right.
Yes, and having people want to spend the sort of money that it takes to take in Canucks hockey games live at Rogers Arena, not to mention the time commitment if you're watching at home. Now, if you can get to a New Jersey Devils level of success playing low-scoring defensive hockey where they won multiple Stanley Cups with Marty Brodeur, Niedermayer, Stevens, that crew, then I think people are fine with it. But if it's a Minnesota Wild level, where it's good enough to get you into the playoffs and occasionally win a round, but you can see the ceiling there, you know that that's not going to be good enough to win a cup. This is an exceedingly savvy hockey market. And I do think if you get to that point, you will have some grumblings. You will have some people asking themselves, do I really want to spend this much money on Canucks tickets? Do I really want to dedicate 2+ hours, 82 times a year? And, of course, looking at the X's and O's and saying, can that produce a Stanley Cup champion in today's day and age? But we're not at that point yet. So I voted yes. And I completely understand the fans voting yes here as well.
And it's interesting now the way that people consume sports, but we'll say hockey for now. You know, back in the day when more people could afford to go to games, I think they were fine as long as they knew that they could leave the barn most often with a victory no matter what it looked like.
That's it. The good tidings on your way out of the building, the happy feeling of a win, I think, is more important right now than style points.
But so much more of the Canuck hockey fan these days, Matt, are consuming it from the couch, where it's not about how the experience was in the building. You can have a fun day in the arena in a hard-fought loss. But when you're at home, and it might be free. You might not have lost money, but you've tuned into the television that night for entertainment. Maybe that hits a little less. Like, I wonder if
that's it. Not that there was a lot of winning in the Willie Desjardins era, although they did go to the playoffs that one year. Those were very tough watches.
Yeah.
Those were teams that just didn't have a lot of
cheering on Megna with Jason Megna.
Yeah, I mean the players that we knew and loved as part of the 2011 team were on the backsides of their career. The Sedin brothers, Alex Burrows, and they weren't generating a lot of passion, engagement, fun in that era.
Yeah, I mean, it gets you to the festival, and then come the playoffs, you're going to tune in, and every moment is amped up, and so it doesn't. I don't think you give a crap, nor should you come playoff time.
Of course,
but it's a grind of 6 months. To get to that point is the problem.
Yeah. In fact, it was that Desjardins era that lost my better half. She stopped watching it. She just couldn't deal with it. You know. If they did win, it was 2-1, 3-2 on an ugly goal, and the team didn't look like it had any kind of future, and it was easy for a casual to say, okay, I'm tuning out, or at least I'm not setting aside that 2.5 hours several times a week to watch the game.
Now, I'll say this.
I get that.
The nuance here might be, now Sedin's existed in that era, so they were good for a good highlight every now and then too, but even if the Canucks do win a 2-1 game more often than not here this year, chances are one of those 2 goals was deftly created or scored by Quinn Hughes. and those are generally pretty. So,
yeah, well, therein lies a big difference.
Yeah.
You have a singular fascination with this team that you didn't have in that era.
Yeah.
You have a player who can take you out of your seat on any given shift that more often than not is worth the price of admission.
Back nine Twins were good, but they weren't quite as reliable as they had previously.
And, of course, they were never fast, right? So
No.
you were never looking – there are very few sort of explosive highlights of the two of them and others coming down on the rush with –
Yeah.
and they were, but it wasn't their bread and butter. More a half-court game with the Twins. And even towards the end with Burrows. I mean, because you remember when Vigneault put Burrows on that line, we said, what do you like about Burrows playing with the Twins coach? I mean, this was the former roller hockey fourth liner who had matriculated all the way up to first line right wing. And Vigneault said he gets them playing with pace. And they did play with pace in that era.
Replicating the lozenge click.
With no lozenge.
Yeah.
That's how talented he is on sound effects. He's a former improv guy here.
Not really. No.
Trained.
No.
Our
yes, and I shouldn't have said that. When you say improv, you got to say yes, and that's the improv rule.
That's right. You're never allowed to say no.
No.
You can say yes, but you can't say no. You're a lozenge-sucking head coach with a heavy French accent.
Go? No.
Yeah, go. Come on.
Yes, and I'm not going to do that impression.
I put my foot on the dasher, and I said, that's a penalty.
That's pretty good.
Our friends at the Redwoods Golf Course have junior golf camps available. They're running through the late summer and early fall for kids at ages 6 to 16. Set your kids up for the sport of a lifetime. Private, semi-private junior lessons are also available. They're flexible to your schedule. Winter lessons are going to be available soon. We'll tell you about those, and they can do the winter lessons because they have the beautiful, big, covered, heated driving range. Keeps you out of the sun when it's too hot, keeps you out of the rain when it's too wet. They have the awesome practice bunker, chipping, putting greens. So check out the Redwoods for golf instruction. Go to redwoods-golf.com/instruction, and we're going to have an on-course playing lesson, or we're going to film it. This is terrifying for me. On Tuesday with their pro, Craig. Everyone can make fun of my golf swing.
Watching yourself perform, for those of us that are not professional, at anything, what you feel like you're looking like is different than what you actually look like.
Yeah. And you tend to not look as pretty as you think you do.
I remember Dave Thomason, once we were coaching hockey, he's like, why are you so upright? I'm like, really? I'm upright? Like, I don't feel like I was skating super upright. And you want to get low. It's like, really? I'm upright. Huh. You never look like you think.
Get low. Mm-hmm. Our top story brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. Hockey players in Canucks jerseys on the ice in a game. That's the case tomorrow as the new prospect showcase with the Seattle Kraken begins with a game in Everett, Washington at 6 p.m. Canucks prospects will take on the Kraken prospects again Sunday at 4 p.m., this one in Seattle. Trevor Beggs of the Daily Hive's reporting these games will be streamed. Waiting for details. I mean, imagine Canucks.com, but these games will be streamed, so you can peek on in. And Sunday marks 1 week until the commencement of the preseason with the big club, not just the prospects, facing the Kraken also down in Seattle. We're down to 6 preseason games this season. They face the Kraken again at Rogers Arena on September 26th. And this prospect showcase replaces the very popular Young Stars tournament in Penticton that was revived in 2022. Of course, that tournament also included the Alberta teams, Calgary Flames and the Edmonton Oilers. We are hopeful that the young stars will be back in Penticton in 2027. And, of course, the Canucks are doing training camp in Penticton next weekend. But alas, for now, this prospect showcase with just one other opponent down across the state line this year. It will take place in Abbotsford next season. And then, again, hoping the return of young stars.
Everett Silvertips Arena is the home arena for the Saturday game. And you can take the drive down there, obviously, and buy tickets to that game. Are we still pretty clear that it's not ticketed for, like, you cannot watch the Sunday game? Is that what we're guessing here?
Well, again, I'm going by what Trevor Beggs reported, that the games are going to be streamed. I actually had trouble figuring out where the game is on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, you go to the Kraken website.
It's not a Climate Pledge, or at least it's not listed as at Climate Pledge.
At the Kraken website, they will happily sell you a ticket to Saturday's game.
Yes.
But there is no link to Sundays.
Mm-hmm. Vancouver Canucks first-round pick 2022, Jonathan Lekkerimaki, will participate in this tournament, and we anticipate, based on the way that they have practiced here, and the prospects have practiced, that he will skate on a line centered by Braden Coots, the Canucks first-round draft pick of this past June. They'll be flanked by the towering Swede, Vilmer Ulriksson, all 6'6" of him. Look, we just talked about the Canucks' firepower, or lack thereof, looking to win some 2-1, 3-2 games this year. Jonathan Lekkerimaki is, of course, an offensive player here, Blake, so you tell me, what do you think his chances are of making this club out of training camp, and what does a good season for Lekkerimaki look like?
I would say, I would put an over-under at like 45 games, earning, a battlefield promotion sometime during the season and sticking for long stretches. And then from there, I would hope that he gets to double-digit goals. Like if he can get 10 goals in 45 games, something like that, and then a launching pad to the following year where you play 75 games and flirt with 20 goals. That's sort of the progression that I would want from him. But I think, he's sort of like an early Elias Pettersson, not in production, but in terms of what you're looking for is show me that you're sturdy enough to play with big boys. Show me that you can make a difference, that you can impose your will on a fairly regular basis at this North American professional level. That's a big ask.
So I think he's very much in tough in training camp, and not necessarily because I think he's that much further behind the likes of Arshdeep Bains, Linus, Karlsson, Max Sass, and Vitali Kravtsov.
It's where the floor is, to me.
But of those five guys, Lekkerimaki and Sasson can be dispatched to Abbotsford without having to go through waivers.
Yeah.
Bains, Karlsson, and Kravtsov require waivers. Now, if the Canucks get a rash of injuries at camp and in preseason to their forward ranks, then I think there's a pathway for Lekkerimaki out of the hop. But I would be surprised if they don't protect the assets. Linus Karlsson had a really nice second half last year. Mm-hmm. I think they want to give Arshdeep another run here just to make sure, okay, are we looking at someone with an NHL future, or is he just going to be an excellent AHL player who we can call up? And, of course, the wild card in all of this is the KHL star Vitali Kravtsov, a one-time first-round pick of his own right, who is returning to the Vancouver Canucks after a superb season in the KHL. He's an offensively inclined player. So he might be able to help scoring matters as well. What I will say, and I like how you framed it, 40 games and 10 goals. I do think Lekkerimiki's going to become an important player for the Vancouver Canucks as this season goes on, Blake, because I think we saw it in flashes last year. Kid can really shoot the puck. Kid can really shoot the puck from different angles too. And I think they're going to need his offense and his shot at some point this season. Like, I think a full season in the AHL for Jonathan Lekkerimaki, where you might be able to look at it from a pure developmental point of view and say, hey, look, kid's still just 21 years old, and that's fine. And I agree with that. But for this specific player on this specific team, I see a world where they're going to require scoring as they lose some forwards to injuries, because you're going to have some injuries. And I think that is the void that Jonathan Lekkerimaki has to step up into and help the big clubs score goals. I don't think it's just about his development this year. I think he's got to be an asset, a contributor, a part of the solution for the Canucks offensive.
Yeah, and he got some decent looks last year. I think, it's all about these guys getting looks and learning what they don't know. They don't know what they don't know. And then they find out and they're like, oh, that's what I have to be much better in. And you hope all that clicked for Jonathan Lekkerimaki and for Kravtsov too. A guy that has been there and done that and been away for a couple of years. So, yeah, I think he can be part. I am really intrigued by Linus Karlsson because I said this all last year as he put up these numbers. If they had drafted this guy and he was middling for years, and then at the age of 25, 24, 25, exploded for, and remember he was up for a bit with Vancouver, but at the AHL level had 23 and 32 goals per game through the roof. Added 14 more goals in just 24 games in the playoffs. So do the math, 37 goals in 56 games. If you saw that from a prospect that you had drafted and nurtured, you'd be like, boom, he's arrived. Guy's developed exactly as we'd hope. It's a little bit different when you've been acquired in a pretty quiet trade where you didn't think much of it at the time, didn't think much of the player, weren't really tracking him. He's sort of just now arrived, and you're like, is this a player? Well, I think he might be. He's a hell of a quad A player, Matt, if this is what he is. Like that goals per game, including the playoffs. I mean, that is huge at the American League level.
Blake, if you add the 3 goals he scored with the Vancouver Canucks, he scored 50 goals last year.
Yeah.
24 in the playoffs, 23 in the regular season.
No, 24 is his games play. He only played 14.
Oh, sorry.
14 goals.
My bad. Oh, but poor notes put me on Isano. So it was 40 goals.
Yeah.
He scored 40 goals last year in 71 games across all 3 levels.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Really good. Now, I do think at the same time, as much as you can be excited about that.
71 points, Blake. Yeah. Really good.
You can be excited about it, but at the same time, it is the go year.
No question. Yeah,
he's turning 26. He's turning 26 in November. So, this is the year you have to say, I am an NHL player. And if it doesn't come,
then
he's probably done.
You're right. You got a hell of a quad A.
A really good quad A player.
Yeah. Elias Paterson, EPD, to skate on a defense pair with Tom Wielander, the Canucks first-round pick in 2023, and then an all-prospect pairing. And I say all-prospect because, generally speaking, these are all prospects. Not all prospects are created equal. Sawyer Minio, a third-round pick, and Kirill Kudryavtsev, a seventh-round pick, but someone who was very much elevated and outperformed his draft station, are both bona fide prospects for the Vancouver Canucks. And they're going to form the second defense pair. Again, we anticipate from the way they practiced. Kudryavtsev, of course, played in a couple of NHL games late last season and will be playing on his offside. They're both lefties, so will be playing on his offside on the right side. We talked about it yesterday. Hey, you can play the right side, son. That's just more value and utility at the AHL and NHL level. So, there were years when the young stars went down, Blake, as you joked earlier in the week, and all the stars were on the other teams. The Canucks were just young. In fact, there was that one year the Canucks weren't even young. Do you remember that one year we were looking at the roster and look at all the 24 and 25. They basically had to fill out a young stars roster with guys in their mid-20s.
I think there was
just to participate.
I think San Jose brought a 27-year-old once.
I believe one year. Yeah, I think you're right. When they were a little hard up for prospects. The bottom line: there are actual prospects in the Vancouver Canucks system. They have done a really splendid job, and we saw this last year in Abbotsford with Manny Malhotra. Took that team to a Calder Cup championship. They have done a splendid job of developing young players. over the last few years. For years, that was very, very difficult. But you take a look at the guys who took steps last year. Kudryavtsev, EPD, Lekkerimaki, Ty Young, the goaltender. Then Ulrichsen, Ty Müller. We talked about what a terrific first professional campaign he had in Abbotsford. Minio as a Canadian World Junior. Tom Wielander and his exploits as a sophomore at Boston University. Not to mention there's a couple others we could throw in there as well. In fact, Anthony Romani, who is not playing at this tournament because he's off at university, right? He transferred from junior hockey to the NCAA, so doesn't get a chance to participate. Bottom line, there's some good things happening with the Vancouver Canucks at the farm and below with drafted players on their reserve lists, and we'll get glimpses of that this weekend.
This prospects camp deemed too professional for an NCAA player to possibly perform, even though
we're paying
he's eligible to make millions of dollars theoretically.
That's right.
Not Romani, but you get the point. It's a little bit weird now.
And Romani has been a huge scorer in the OHL. We'll see how it translates to the NCAA with Michigan State, right?
Tomorrow, last reminder, Whistler Beer Fest is on. Yellow Dog, Neighborhood, as Whistler Beer Fest is back. Go check it out. Grab your tickets now. It's a super fun, iconic event, and still a great time to be up at Whistler, so go check it out tomorrow.
I think some Canucks fans were alarmed yesterday when they saw the news that Ray Ferraro is joining up with the LA Kings broadcast team. Ray, of course, works for ESPN, but he joined the Canucks a couple of years ago as a color analyst on the TV side alongside Dave Tomlinson. You see, and we talked about this when the national schedule was released, ESPN does a bunch of NHL games early in the schedule, first week for opening night, and then pretty much goes dormant for two plus months with very few games through November and December. Well, Ray's going to be helping out, and there are a lot. It looks like the Kings are using a lot of color analysts this year.
And two play-by-play guys. It is a huge roster.
It is a huge roster of broadcasters for the LA Kings this year, including former St. Louis play-by-play man John Kelly, who's moving to the Kings. And Kelly, a legendary name, of course, in hockey.
Former TSN guy Mike Kelly, unrelated.
That's
also
right.
Involved.
So Ray confirmed on X, no, he is going to be back for a third year with the Canucks. He's just getting his schedule sorted. Jimmy Murphy of RG Media out of Boston is reporting that two Canadian clubs, and frankly, I was surprised not to see a third, the Vancouver Canucks. Two Canadian clubs, the Montreal Canadiens, the Calgary Flames, have shown interest in Bruins centerman Pavel Zacha. Murphy is reporting that Boston is not shopping this player. They are more just listening and have had interest through the summer. He said he thought a deal was possible after U.S. Thanksgiving if the Boston Bruins get off to a slow start. The Canadiens apparently have been dangling prospects Joshua Roy, Oliver Kapanen, as well as defenseman Jaden Struble, who's played a couple of NHL seasons. Struble's a rough and tumble New Englander, so that appeals apparently to the Bruins, as well as the forwards, who both have, of course, decorated hockey names, Roy and Kapanen.
Yes.
And, of course, the Habs have been all over Mason McTavish as well, the still unsigned Anaheim centerman and one-time top 3 draft pick, Blake.
I saw Bruce Garriock was asking if the Senators should be involved in Zacha as well. So
the Habs are one of the other teams that are looking for a second-line center. And in a lot of ways, they're kind of chief competition for the Vancouver Canucks on the second-line center front, because that's a team that got back to the playoffs last year after years of rebuilding. Hell, some teams won't say the word rebuild. The Montreal Canadiens have a reality series named Rebuild.
The Sens too, right? They just got their first sip too. Like there's a bunch of these teams that are just like, ooh, we think we're ready to take that next step.
Well, they want to take the next step.
This.
They're missing that piece. And of course, because of all those years of rebuilding, they have a cache of young players, prospects, draft picks, assets that they're able to part with. Now, we'll see if that's good enough for Boston, if Boston is going down that rebuild or retool road, or if it's going to have to be roster players.
But I think it makes sense that they want to wait.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, for sure. Yeah, in that market especially.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Because if you're losing off the get-go in Boston, forget about it. You're
Oh, my God.
completely forgotten.
You're getting booed
You'll get
for 4
lost.
months.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You get lost in the Patriots season, the Celtics season, especially if the Red Sox go to the play. So, no. Like, Boston and St. Louis for years made the playoffs, just never won the cup, right? Like, that was the criticism of Boston, is the aspiration wasn't high enough. They were happy just to make the playoffs.
They'd be happy
In the
again
Harry
this
Sedin
year.
era. Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
But this is a good player, Blake. Like, Zacha's a good player. He's a big guy, plays the middle. He's got value both sides of the puck.
He's a 2-3 center, not a second-line center with a bullet.
Well,
He is.
but I'm not sure
But he's a good one.
based on what's available, I'm not sure how choosy one can be.
No, it's true.
The other thing, and we talked about this yesterday with Luke Hughes and Kirill Kaprizov, others. You've basically got training camp looming next week for the Anaheim Ducks, and Mason McTavish, and the reporting there is that he's just wondering how he fits in now after they go off and sign Michael Granlund in free agency. Of course, they've got Leo Karlsson, a top pick who they drafted as well, and he's going to get his ice time this year. So this could be a very interesting situation for the 22-year-old McTavish, the third overall pick in 2021. He's played 3 seasons with Anaheim, 43, 42, 52 points. That is excellent production for a guy so young. That's going to take a huge trade I'm not sure the Canucks can muster. But if Montreal gets him, then needless to say, one of the suitors for the other centers that could be available or are available via trade will have scratched its itch.
For all these unsigned RFAs, and they do still have time right now to get them in time for camp. You can say all you want. Oh, if he signs September the 28th, they'll still be there in time for game 1. They will. The number of young players signed after training camp, but more importantly, signed after preseason, that have good years that year is a short list. For some reason, it is a huge impact on developing mid-20s players.
Yep.
So if this goes another 2 weeks for the Ducks, will he still be able to play 82 games or 80 games? Yeah, he will. But again, it's a short list of players that have gone by that calendar and had great seasons. It has an impact. And so you wonder if those GMs start to feel a little bit of a pressure point, even though, again, it's not one per se. Do you diminish this player's season if you don't sign them in the next week?
Honestly, Blake, and after July 1st, or a week or two after, when it became clear that discipline was the order of the day with NHL general managers and contract signings, despite the fact they've been handed cap space for the first time in nearly a half decade. We talked about how, boy, if you didn't know any better, you would almost think that the GMs, the owners got together and said, okay, guys, let's make sure we keep them.
It screams that.
Well, Blake, I'll give you the flip side right now. McTavish and Luke Hughes unsigned. McDavid and Kaprizov and Eichel thus far not signing extensions, even though they're eligible. If I didn't know any better, it almost looks to me like some of the star players and agents have said, okay, now it's our time to put the screws to these guys. See them sweat a little bit. No, we're not taking that. We're holding out for this dollar. I think you've got a lot of agents and players who are a little ticked off, Blake, with the early returns on all this cap space and going into this new CBA where really the players didn't get a whole lot. These could be some tricky and interesting negotiations happening with these star players eligible for contract extensions that have thus far not signed, and with these RFAs who don't really have a lot of leverage other than the fact that they're darn good players and their teams probably need them to win in the early going. So we'll see where that goes. The 5 Canadian World Junior players found not guilty in a London Superior Court this summer will be reinstated by the National Hockey League. We were waiting on this. Carter Hart, Dylan Dubé, Michael McLeod, Alex Formanton, and Cal Foote, the son of Canucks head coach Adam Foote. it was announced yesterday, are eligible to sign with NHL clubs no earlier than October 15th. So the season will get underway with these players not signed, and eligible to play December 1st. The NHLPA is not pushing for more here. Pushing for an earlier return.
Yes.
They released a statement. The union released a statement yesterday saying in order to avoid a protracted dispute with the league, they agreed to these terms and they consider the matter closed.
One player's already signed. Alex Formanton signed a week ago or so with Abby Canuck in Switzerland.
Yeah, where he had been.
He retired, quote unquote.
Yes.
He's come out of retirement now that the coast is clear.
He's the one of the four where you're just not sure there's an NHL player there.
Great speed,
beautiful skater,
wonderful
incredible
skater.
speed. That's what got him drafted as high, I believe, it was second round by the Ottawa Senators. He was a little bit of a surprise pick for some in that regard because there wasn't a whole lot there outside of speed.
I don't think there's enough there for NHL players or NHL teams to want to take the PR risk on him either.
No, exactly. But the other four are a little different. The other four are high draft picks too. We know the Canucks have said they have no interest in either of Adam's sons, who are both hockey players. They just don't want that sort of weird father-son dynamic and I completely understand that, right? It's awkward. And we know they don't need a goaltender. But Dylan Dubé, McLeod, should they have any appeal?
I don't think there
Both
is.
Can play the middle. Do you think the Canucks would be willing to take the PR risk here and potentially alienate some customers by signing one of these players? Dubé, incidentally, born in Golden, BC, who played for the Kelowna Rockets.
I would be blown away. If the Canucks.
See, I wouldn't.
Really?
No. I think Rutherford's willing to cross that bridge. I think Aquilini's willing to cross that bridge. And I think Adam Foote, whose son was a part of them, probably takes the view these are fully exonerated players. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah, I think somebody will take a chance on Carter Hart for sure. And
there will be a goaltender needy team that I think, yes.
As for the others,
Dubé's twice an 18-goal scorer in the National Hockey League. His last full season with Calgary, 22-23. It was 18 goals, 45 points in 82 games. That's pretty good for a 24-year-old. He's 27 now.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting, and the thing is, they're going to come cheap, right? There's zero leverage for any of these players,
right? That's the other thing. So they fit neatly into your cap.
Easily demoted.
Yeah, McLeod is not quite. Did not get to the heights that Dubé did. He's played 287 games and scored 85 points, a career high 26 points, career high 10 goals, 12th overall pick in 2016. But a right shot center, Blake.
Yeah, not the answer though.
He's not a second line center.
No,
he's not a second line center. Let's get to our menu. It is brought to you by our good friends at Greta. And yesterday we got an email about some Greta watch parties that will be coming up, including one in October. We'll tell you more about that when it's all set and confirmed. For the moment, fantastic spot to pregame or postgame. You're mere steps from the stadium or arena. If you need a venue for team building, check out Greta. They have an amazing menu. Try the tacos. Try the poutine. In fact, share the poutine. It's a very big poutine. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. I love it.
And, of course, the arcade that surrounds the bar with a game for everyone. And don't forget about bottomless wings for $25. For more info to book your event, go to gretabar.com. Greta, 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. J-Pat is going to join us here Mondays and Fridays with Jeff Paterson again this year. There'll be some slight changes, but typically Monday to Friday. Take on all the Canucks stories at hand, including Quinn Hughes' future, what he saw from Elias Pettersson and those informal skates this week, the goaltending arrangement with Lankinen and Demco, and then Jesper Sorenson, head coach, Vancouver Whitecaps FC. They have a huge match tomorrow at BC Place against the first place in the Eastern Division, Eastern Conference, Philadelphia Union. It's their first game in 3 damn weeks after this reschedulement of their match in Orlando, because Orlando had, Leagues Cup duties. So Rust, we'll ask him about Ryan Gauld and his timeline for return. We'll ask him about Thomas Müller and what he has already brought to this Caps side. Vancouver now chasing Minnesota and San Diego in the MLS West, sitting third place. Minnesota, San Diego play each other this weekend. So you're hoping for the Caps win. You're hoping for the San Diego, Minnesota draw. Gain 2 points on both sides. They got games in hand as well. This could be a very fun autumn with Whitecaps FC. All that's coming up. Plus, look into baseball, the BC Lions game, of course, tonight. And as you mentioned off the top, a very busy weekend of sports. Time now for our Bet365 bets of the day. I was on the Caps, Blake, so a future from me yesterday. Were you on a future, or did you have anything from last night?
Don't remember.
Not on the Thursday Night Football? No? I was on Thursday Night Football earlier in the week with Green Bay. We got to win there. Okay, I'll go.
No.
Look, Collaros is hurt for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but we've seen this before, right? Like even last year, where Winnipeg, who's a good team, knows it's good, starts slow, messes around a little bit, and then takes the final third of the regular season and says, okay, time to show everybody who we are. I'm getting 7 points on the Bombers in Hamilton tomorrow. It's the first, or tonight, it's the first of a doubleheader on Friday Night Football, with Ottawa and BC being the second game. So give me Winnipeg in the points in the hammer against the Ticats. I
was looking to see if I could get a Jonathan David goal. I couldn't find it on the menu, but I do have just a Juventus victory. And based on Jonathan David coming back with 2 Canadian victories in his pocket, I think he's going to have a little extra jump in his step. So he'll propel Juventus to a win over Inter Milan, plus 175 on a Juve victory.
Did I miss something on Quinn Hughes here, Blake? Is he?
He made his first appearance at UBC, so we can. J-Pat saw the look there. There he is. He's back.
This segment, a presentation of Bet365. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game, use code NATION when doing so. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Jeff Paterson coming up next. Garrison Price from the historic Wall Center. Daily Faceoff has your back with the brand new DFO Fantasy Draft Kit, your one-stop shop for everything you need to build that perfect fantasy hockey team. We're talking player projections, power play units, line combos, sleeper picks, bus warnings, team previews, basically all the tools to make you look like a genius while your friends draft blindfolded. Whether you're a seasoned fantasy vet or a rookie, this kit has everything you need to dominate your league. So before you make that first pick, and certainly before you make that pick in the 5th or 6th round, you know you'll be scrambling in the 5th or 6th round. Head over to dailyfaceoff.com/draft-kit. Get your hands on the fantasy draft kit. Fantasy hockey domination starts at dailyfaceoff.com. Jeff Paterson is our Canucks reporter, the host of RinkWide Vancouver. He joins us after a week with... Well, I thought they were pretty ominous comments from Quinn Hughes, Jeff, about his future here in Vancouver, but how did you interpret them?
Yeah, look, there's not a person on this planet that can't look objectively at this story and think it's juicy. I mean, 3 high-level brothers, 2 of whom play in one spot and the other who can now see unrestricted free agency from where he's from. Like, even if you have no time for the discourse and you want the noise to go away, you can't sit there and say that this isn't something at the very least. And so Jack went first, said what he said. Quinn was sort of dragged into it a little bit. I think Quinn is doing the best he can to stick handle this off the ice as well as he stick handles on the ice. But he too knows that it's something. It's a story there, and it's not going away. Now, if anybody has earned the benefit of the doubt to be given leeway to say what he said and believe him, and when Quinn says he's trying to live in the moment and that because he can't sign an extension until July 1st at the earliest, that really, in his world, it's not a story in the here and now, that his focus is solely on playing for the Vancouver Canucks and doing all he can to help the Vancouver Canucks. And I believe that. And we saw that last year. Like, through the shitstorm of distractions, there was one constant, and when he was healthy, it was that Quinn Hughes elevated, and it was unfortunate that he just couldn't bring the rest of the group along for the same ride. So I would expect that Quinn is going to be able to compartmentalize all of this and play at a level as good as pretty much anything we've seen from him in his time as a member of the Vancouver Canucks. But you can hear the clock ticking, and the story isn't going away. And so, for the people that said, if Jim Rutherford hadn't said what he said, this wouldn't be. No, come on, this market's way too savvy. We went through this with Elias Pettersson and his contract. People can connect the dots here and recognize that this is a story that's coming down the line. Now, Quinn's been sort of painted into a corner a little bit in as much as the minute Luke was drafted by the Devils, this became a story, right? If Luke goes to Anaheim or Columbus or Nashville or anywhere else, it's
not the
three
same
brothers
story. No.
in three separate spots, and the logistics are basically impossible. But when it was 2v1 and the one is approaching a point where he can control his future, then this is going to be a story without a doubt. So I thought Quinn did his best to sort of tamp down the firestorm, but in a market like this one, and really around the NHL, the firestorm is going to continue to rage.
The thing is, though, Jeff, we talked about it yesterday. I thought he would have come armed with that diplomatic NHL answer we've heard a million times before. I'm fully focused on this season. My contract can't be dealt with till next summer. I'll deal with it then. But he's asked that question about, is there a chance that you can stay in Vancouver? He doesn't answer in the affirmative, and he starts talking about, I've really enjoyed my time in Vancouver. Like, to me, that was the chilling stuff from a guy who, and, put it together with what Rutherford and Jack said. I mean, it almost sounds like there's a plan afoot already, the way he addressed it this week.
Well, look, Matt, I think there is a world in which Quinn Hughes has made up his mind. Again, he can't act on it, really, until next summer. Now, I think it's important to note for hockey fans, because there's so much talk about, he's eligible to sign an extension next July 1st. That doesn't mean that he and the Canucks can start talking on July 1st. Look at Connor Garland and Thatcher Demco on July 1st this year, a year out from the expirations of their deals. Boom, extensions were announced. That means they've been talking about this with their agent, their families, and with the Vancouver Canucks for a while. So at some point, I would think that the two sides here, as this season unfolds, are going to have to really kind of get down to brass tacks, and the Canucks need to get a better sense of where it is, because things do change on July 1st next year. If the Canucks don't have an extension to announce with Quinn Hughes, then you're entering Connor McDavid territory, except that McDavid doesn't have brothers that play together elsewhere. But you see what's happening in Edmonton now, just a constant discourse about that, and understandably so, and some real concern there, and I think the same goes. So Quinn Hughes isn't getting traded this year. He's not getting traded at this year's deadline. He's a Vancouver Canuck, and his sole focus is to make the Canucks better. And I do believe him when he said, if things go well, winning is fun. That is going to certainly help the Canucks' cause in trying to convince him to stay. If things go sideways, well, then all bets are off. But, and I think you guys talked about this too, I remember Blake saying somewhere along the line, there's no guarantee that the New Jersey Devils are any better than the Vancouver Canucks when it comes time to make that ultimate decision. And I don't know that the lure of playing with his brothers on a mediocre team is enough. Quinn Hughes is about to turn 26. Time marches on. We've watched this guy grow up in front of our eyes. If he has the kind of career that he wants, he's going to play till he's 36. He may play a little bit longer, but let's just use 36. He has 10 more cracks at a Stanley Cup. Like, it moves by in the blink of an eye. And if he's a free agent and the New Jersey Devils are spinning their wheels, you're telling me that he's going to elect to go play with his brothers just because it's fun when he really hasn't had a sniff at like a prolonged, playoff run. So it's not an either or. Like, I do think that absolutely door number 3 is a legitimate option in the eyes of Quinn Hughes, and door number 3 being a chance to go somewhere where he has a legitimate shot at winning. And so there's pressure on the Canucks to provide that. In the back of the minds, the Devils obviously want to make it a soft landing spot for him, but ultimately I think there's going to be a number of factors at play here. So it is, again, like, it's not a story that's going anywhere, but it is a story with all sorts of arms and legs.
But muddying the water even more is the Connor McDavid narrative, where he's been to the Stanley Cup final 2 years in a row, like minutes away from hoisting the chalice, if you want to put it plainly. And even he's like, yeah, I'm not convinced. Your bar changes. Where you think a team is really in the eye of the beholder, right?
Yeah, you're right. Like, so where could Connor McDavid put himself unless we get into sort of that NBA territory of trying to absolutely stack teams with stars, but in a salary cap world, even an escalating salary cap world, that's going to be difficult. So, yeah, I mean, that's why I say, like, there's no easy answer here.
No.
I think the easiest answer is that the Vancouver Canucks do everything in their power to have the kind of season that they hope they do, that Quinn Hughes is in an environment where he's able to thrive and play and produce like he did 2 years ago when he won his first Norris Trophy. They have to have a little bit of good fortune on the health front, obviously, because we saw what happened last year. And so all of that, training camp next week, and training camp goes by quickly as well, but those 3 days in Penticton, it's about team building. It's about putting the building blocks in place to then springboard into a preseason and be ready to hit the ground running on October the 9th, because the games in October mean as much or more than the games late in the season if the games late in the season don't mean anything. And we've all been through way too many years where that's been the case for the Vancouver Canucks. So, need a fast start, need the stars to step up and produce, and everybody pulling on the rope in the right direction. That's really what's in the control of the Vancouver Canucks. And, it won't be long now till we start to peel back some layers and get some answers to the many questions that face this hockey club this season.
Is the indirect pressure on Elias Pettersson here? Because, like in the Quinn Hughes prism, like if Elias Pettersson's a superstar again this year, then I think Quinn Hughes feels a lot better about the situation here in Vancouver. But if Elias Pettersson is a 55-point player again, I think he's probably looking around going, what are the prospects of anybody helping me out here in the next few years? And that's pretty ominous.
And I kind of lost track of which of the many interviews and podcasts he did this week, but I think Quinn basically laid it at the feet of Elias Pettersson at some point, where he said, like, I played through this distraction that, I felt this team needed me. I need some of these other guys, and some of the other guys looking at you, EP40, without a doubt. And so much of the Canucks' success or lack of this year is going to hang on Elias Pettersson. And I think he understands that as well. That doesn't guarantee that he's going to get back to the heights of a 102-point player, but he certainly can't be a 45-point guy again and think that this team is going to be able to push its way to a playoff spot. So indirectly, directly, whatever. I mean, I think Elias Pettersson understands the pressure from the outside, but it kind of felt like Quinn Hughes was not pointing fingers, but basically laying it bare for all of his teammates that I can't do it alone here, guys. I finished 26 points ahead of anybody else in team scoring somehow last season. That cannot happen again, and this team have success.
100%, Jeff. I made the same comment yesterday, and you'll remember Quinn was asked that question about Elias at his end-of-season media availability, and he basically just punted. He said, like, I am not going to be responsible, accountable for somebody. Like, everybody has to do their part in the summer. Speaking of, when we talked to you Monday, you said you wanted to see something from Elias in these informal skates with the added weight and strength. Did you see something from number 40 this week, Jeff?
I did make my way out to UBC on Tuesday, and it was interesting to see the way that they had sort of divided the labor, that they had scaled it back to a veterans-only session. There were 15 veteran skaters and 3 goaltenders on the ice. Nikita Tolopilo was the least experienced of the bunch, but when it came to skaters, it was all guys that you would expect are going to be on the opening night roster. Then there was a second group that skated, and it was basically all the hopefuls. Throw the names, Ratu and Sasson and Baines and Linus Karlsson and DPD and Tom Lander. They were all out there in the second group of the day, but no room for the young guys with the main group that was skating. Quinn was really the only guy that was missing. And you know what struck me more than anything I saw from Miller-Pettersson, and it was fine. But there wasn't really much to gauge from a September 9th or 10th skate. But what struck me was, for all the talk about these Abbotsford guys and the Calder Cup run and everything else, like when you see the veterans skating, you realize really how few jobs are truly up for grabs. Ratu's spot at third line center is there, and he wasn't on the ice. And then really when you shake it down with the forward group, there's a fourth line left wing spot that is there. And then there's a battle, I guess, for sort of the sixth defenseman. But what you see on the roster is what you've got. And then it's a question of, can they somehow find the good vibes of 2 years ago where everybody had a career year, they stayed relatively healthy? My one takeaway from Tuesday, guys, was it really was comforting to see Thatcher Demco back in goal, moving freely, looking like the Thatcher Demco of a couple of seasons ago. When you think of where he was at this time last year, where didn't have the clearance to go participate at training camp other than to be on the ice with the goalie coaches, but wasn't facing NHL shooters. And obviously that story developed until he made his season debut on December the 10th. So in early September, to see Thatcher Demco out there facing NHL shooters, looking completely healthy, and let's hope that he is. Maybe that was the most promising sort of takeaway that I had from my trip to Point Grey on Tuesday.
Is there any chance that a guy like a Vitali Kravtsov starts the season with the Vancouver Canucks? Is there any Cinderella story, him or otherwise, do you think? Or is that what you're talking about with regards to the number of jobs, that there's just no room right now?
It's kind of funny. He was one of the guys that I didn't see. He wasn't in either group, to the best of my knowledge, on Tuesday. So I'm not sure if it was just a day off for him. Nobody's taking attendance at these things. They're not mandatory. And some guys perhaps opting for an off-ice workout. Jonathan Lekkerimaki wasn't on the ice on Tuesday, but he was part of the Abbotsford training camp group that's heading to Seattle this weekend. So he's fine and ready to go. But for me, Kravtsov's one of those guys that, just dipping his toe in it, that's not going to get it done. Right? 16 games with the Canucks, I barely remember them. I doubt he remembers them. There wasn't much there. But he has made the choice to come back to the National Hockey League. He is familiar with a lot of the people. He would have some degree of familiarity with Adam Foote. He didn't make a great first impression, quite frankly. And so, it's not going to be enough for him just to kind of go through the motions and try to play it safe at training. I need to see this guy that, sixth in KHL scoring last year, that seems like he has grown up and matured and found his game. He's going to be one of the guys that I watch pretty closely at training camp. And even though training camp's just 3 days, I still think, he's got to come in. He's got to test well, the fitness testing. That's got to be the start of it. And he has to be ready.
He has to work.
Drop of the first puck. And I think he's one of those guys that kind of has to go above and beyond. The Canucks don't owe him anything. He's on one of those contracts. He'd make some decent money down in the American Hockey League, but unless he is markedly better than the options that they've got, in my mind, he's not making the opening night roster. That doesn't mean he's not going to play games for the Vancouver Canucks at some point this season, but I just think he's in tough, and I think it's totally on him to be one of the training camp standouts.
Well, the good news for him is he knows what went wrong the first time. So he just has to, he knows what he needs to cure and to be a National Hockey League player. And that's good, but it's just another thing to do it.
Baines, Karlsson, Sasson, Lekkerimaki, Kravtsov. I think there's a winger job on line 4 for one of those 5 men.
Yeah.
I think the other 11
assuming
forward
health.
spots.
Assuming health.
Assuming good health. I think the other 11 forward spots are spoken for, as Jeff notes. We heard from Lankinen this week, Jeff. And I was talking yesterday on the show that, years ago you developed your, backup goalie expectation model, starts, wins, points that you need out of your backup goalie. Does it apply in this scenario? First of all, refresh everybody. And does it apply in this scenario, or do you anticipate that Kevin Lankinen will be more than your average Bear backup goalie and get more starts? in a more of a shared arrangement with Thatcher? You tell me.
Yeah, I mean, so much of it depends on Thatcher and his health. And so, I am curious to see. Adam Foote, rookie head coach, team needs this good start that we talked about. There's a total through line here. Like Bruce Boudreau took over, and what did he do? He rode Thatcher Demco. And as I recall, Thatcher Demco was one of the stars of the week. In the first week on the job for Bruce Boudreau, the old, show me a good coach, I'll show you a guy with a good starting goaltender. But you can't blame Boudreau. He was trying to sort of stabilize things, and he came in and he rode Thatcher Demco hard. And then Rick Tocchet comes in and same sort of deal. What does he do? He leans an awful lot on Thatcher Demco. Adam Foote has been here for a while now. He knows the history of Thatcher Demco. Thatcher Demco is going to be 30 in December. Can Adam Foote fight the urge to play Thatcher Demco and play him a lot early on because this team needs to get out of the gates reasonably quickly? So that's one of the things I'm going to be watching. Now, some of the pressure should be taken off, knowing that you've got a totally capable backup in Kevin Lankinen, who really carried this team in the early stages last season. So I think there is this sense around the hockey club that you're still looking at like a 45 to 48 starts for Thatcher Demco in a perfect world, and that'll leave enough on the table for Kevin Lankinen, in the mid-30s in terms of starts. But again, I could see a world where they push Demko if he's healthy and he's playing well. Have to keep in mind it's a condensed season too with the Olympics there, so there's going to be some nights where they simply don't have the option. They're going to have to split the goaltending starts. Through all of that, is there a world in which Kevin Lankinen could push beyond just being the backup? Again, I think some of that comes down to Thatcher Demko's health and his performance. And remember, too, guys, we talked about, it took him until December 10th to make his season debut last year. But even then, the next 6 weeks weren't great for Thatcher Demco. It wasn't until the 2 weeks before the Four Nations break where he really got into a groove and dialed it up for 6 or 8 starts. And then he got hurt in that Toronto game before the Four Nations break, and then we didn't see him for a while again. So I think there's a world in which less is more when it comes to Thatcher Demco. And ultimately, guys, that's the other thing too, is as much as you want to see Thatcher Demco healthy and play, we all want to see Thatcher Demco play playoff hockey. That's the one thing. This guy's got Vezina votes. He's been to All-Star games. He's got his contract extension. The one thing he doesn't have on his resume, he's got 4 NHL Stanley Cup playoff starts, which is just wild.
And he's been awesome in them,
and
Jeff.
he has been,
that's the cruel irony of all of this.
Right.
He's been outstanding.
I have to believe that he burns to play playoff hockey and play when the pressure is on and the lights are the brightest and all that kind of stuff, but he can't do it unless he helps the hockey club through the regular season. So the goaltending workload is going to be a fascinating one to me.
Can't fall in love with him, right? We've been saying, you can't fall in love with him and give him 8 straight starts at any point this season.
No.
And so I think, Lankinen is, he's kind of funny to me. Nothing seems to faze the guy. And we learned that about him last year. As low-key as they come, but he was ready when the Canucks asked him. And he ran into trouble when they overplayed him because Rick Tocchet ran out of confidence and patience in Artur Silovs, and his only wins came against the Chicago Blackhawks, and so they needed somebody to play goal, and they ran into a position where they were playing Lankinen too much, and that's where you saw his play fall off. But most goaltenders fall in that boat. They can give you 4, 5, 6 good starts in a row, but as you said, if you're tempted to try to push it to 8, 9, 10, that's when trouble presents itself. So Canucks, they believe in what they've got, and I believe in it as well. I mean, I don't know, I'm not going to sit here and say they've got the best tandem in the National Hockey League, but they've got the potential to have one of the best tandems. And so, most nights they should have as much or more goaltending than the other team.
Which leads me to the question, are you okay with a bunch of 2-1 victories?
Yeah, look, it's not going to be pretty, and it's funny because when I was in with you last week and we talked to Greg Bell about the best path forward for the Seattle Seahawks, and he said, look, the Hawks don't care what it looks like as long as they've got more points on the board than the other team at the end of the day, and that's ultimately what it is about. What do they say in golf? Number or no pictures on the scorecard. I think there's an element of that for the Vancouver Canucks. They have to be prepared to win 3-2 and 2-1. And even Quinn Hughes in his chat with Ian McIntyre at the outset of the month, where he said, like, I recognize we're not the most skilled team. I don't think that was Quinn throwing shade at management or anybody else. It was him recognizing that there are other ways to carve a path to success in the National Hockey League, and that can mean defending. It may not be aesthetically pleasing on a lot of nights. It may be low event. And maybe Canuck fans have to get used to that. But the name of the game is winning. And I wrote about this at Canucks Army earlier this week. I sort of had, I guess, pushed it out of my mind about, just how inept the Canucks were on home ice last season with 17 wins in 41 games. Like, that's an area that they have to get better. And this sort of comes back to your point, like where's the balance of putting on a show for the fans and getting people excited and giving them something to cheer about on a nightly basis, or ultimately do the fans just want to leave the building after the home team wins? And so I don't expect that this is going to be a high-flying bunch. I think that they are going to have to grind out a lot of wins. The problem is that there's going to be a lot of nights where the other team does get 3 or 4. And how do the Canucks fare on those nights? Can they muster enough offense to try to keep up and keep pace? Or, when the other team gets to 3, is that when trouble sets in for the Vancouver Canucks?
Lastly, Jeff, we have heard you in seasons past around this time deride the one-day contract. Yes. You were very much against the one-day retire as a blank contract. Marc-Andre Fleury signing a PTO with the Penguins so he can get run in a preseason game, play with Sidney, Gino, and his old mates, get the crowd applause. Do we approve of this, Jeff? Is this a better way to do the one-day retirement contract?
Well, you had me scared there when you said he gets run in a preseason game. What's happening here? Is this going to be like Milan Lucic and Ryan Miller many years ago?
No, get some run, not
I understand.
Get some run. Okay,
I know.
Right.
I got you now. I was a little worried.
Nobody's going to run the flower in his last game.
I didn't know what you were setting. Yeah, I think it's against Columbus. Do the Blue Jackets have something against Marc-Andre Fleury that we're not? Everybody loves the flower.
That was a really good rivalry at one point, actually.
And Blake was spot on. Blake's having a good day here already. When he posted that this sort of changes the calculus for these one-day things. If you're going to sign a one-day, you damn well get out there, suit up, and play. And we've seen, like, the Blackhawks have done the one more lap thing where they've brought back legends in full uniform. That's not bad,
but this is better, yeah.
And I was there in Chicago for one of those nights. It was a Chris Chelios or somebody, and it's a cool moment to see, a flash from the past in uniform one last time. So I like that idea. But this is raising it a little bit. I thought that we had said our goodbyes to Marc-Andre Fleury, but I'm all for this. I think it'll be a terrific night. The one thing I didn't grasp fully in the press release from the Penguins was that it said he was going to play. I can't remember how they worded it exactly, but it sounded like he might make a couple of appearances in that game. So are they just going to keep putting him in and pulling him out and getting like a pitcher when he, the manager comes out and you get the big salute? Are they going to do that a couple of times for the flower?
They said parts of. You're right. Parts of. So yeah. I didn't think of it that way, but you're right. Yeah.
But I'm okay. It's preseason. If you want, have some fun with it. If they wanted to yank him a couple of times so that he could get the love, I'm down with that. I like it. And I'm not sure it goes for everybody, but his personality is so huge that you can know, that he's going to lap it up, that the fans are going to shower him with the love that he deserves. And I think it should be a lot of fun.
That big smile of his.
We'll shower you with love Monday after this prospect showcase, Jeff. Appreciate the time. Until then.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend.
Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center. We're joined by the head coach of Vancouver Whitecaps FC, Jesper Sorenson. His team has been off the pitch for 3 weeks, not since August 23rd.
Cryogenically frozen.
They have a huge one tomorrow, 6:30 at BC Place against the first place Philadelphia Union, and he joins us in advance. Coach, thanks for the time. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm excited to get back on the
I can imagine, Jesper. I mean, this has been an awfully long time. Tell us. I believe we heard you say you weren't even sure what the plan was going to be for such a long layoff. How did you wind up administering this break?
Yeah, it's a pretty fun break at this point of the season because we're heading towards the final stages of the season. But having said that, then we had some players coming in where it's actually quite the beginning of the season. We've had Kenji Cabrera, we had Thomas Müller, we had Jolek Poupé and Sebastian coming in, and they needed different treatment from some of the other players that have played a long season and maybe needed a little bit more recovery and a rest. And then after week 1, we had a lot of players going with the national team, so we split up the group. So it has been like we're having 20 individual schedules for 3 weeks for the players. Yeah. But it's been quite different to manage. But I think the players have done very well in this part. Yeah.
It sounds like the rest helped some guys, but are you worried about rust tomorrow when you step on the pitch?
Yeah, rest and rust. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Of course, a little bit, because now we have only had yesterday the players coming back from national teams. So I think it's and a lot of those guys are going to play, obviously. So I think it's maybe we'll be a little rusty, but I think it'll be the same for Philadelphia, maybe. Yeah.
The guys that have been away and or injured, do you expect them to be ready to go? And not the long-term injuries. We suspect that Brian White is still not quite ready, but Pupa and Schonlau, are they ready to contribute to start? Are they candidates to start, or are they only candidates to come off the bench?
No, they're not candidates too much tomorrow. They'll not be in. So I think it's we will have to. Yeah, unfortunate for them. They come in a little bit like Sabi when he came in. He got injured in one of the first training sessions. So now same happened to Sebastian. So they'll not be in the squad tomorrow.
What about Gauld, coach? We saw he was training this week.
Yeah, he looks better and better, and I think it's great for all of us. It's great for Ryan in particular that he is finally out on the pitch doing something with the football together with his teammates. I think it's been a long wait and a long time for him. So I think I'm hopeful that he'll be back soon to participate. But for me, it's not about when; it's about how he gets back, and that he will be back to his strong self. That will be the most important thing.
2 days ago, he trained for 40 minutes. What was the report the day after? Was there soreness after going the longest he's ever gone?
The day after, he trained for 50 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. So it's coming. It's coming.
So not tomorrow, but like next week, Jesper? Is that possible for Gauld?
No. Let's be real. He's been out for half a year, and he needs a full preseason actually to get back. One thing is to get back into physical. Another thing is to get back into, we have kept him from hard tackles and from, opposition being allowed to go into him and tackle him. So I don't think that we can keep our position from that when we play the real games. So we need to get that tested for real.
Yeah. Well, 7 games left, Jesper. He needs a full preseason. What's your concern level in terms of him even being on form and able to contribute in the playoffs?
Oh, he will be, but he will need a couple of weeks, I think, to train regularly where he's not out of any parts of the train session.
Would you dream of putting him down with Whitecaps too, or nah?
No, I don't think so. To begin with, we can manage through training sessions, especially the last part of the season here where we have a lot of players. So I think that we'll see what we do. Of course, it will be also a discussion with Ryan what he's up to, but I don't think that will be where we want to see him.
Brian's close to, but not quite ready, I'm guessing, for tomorrow. So is it just de facto that it's Daniel Rios as your striker, or you brought there's Sabi as well as an option? He's not a traditional striker, but he's done so well for you in scoring goals. I mean, is there another option besides Daniel Rios?
Yeah, it could be Emmanuel, of course. We also have a young player in the squad tomorrow's Ryan Elumi. So it could be an option as well. He's been doing very, very well on the second team, and it's a big talent. So I think that's the options. Of course, we could play Thomas as well up there, but I think he could do better elsewhere. So I think we have some options, but we'll see what we figure out.
Jesper, we heard when Thomas Müller was unveiled here to Vancouver and to Whitecaps supporters that you two struck it off instantly, became quite close quickly by basically speaking the language of football, that you hit it off in terms of what you were talking about. Take me back to that moment, that first conversation with him. What specifically did you guys talk about that seemed to develop this this great relationship so quickly?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm the coach. I think a guy like Thomas wants insight about how we played, and he wants insight about what would be his role and how he could fulfill it best possible, and how he could help the team, and how we play, and how I saw him as a player, and how I see him as a player, and what I think that he's good at, and where he has to put most of his effort. And I think we just had a very good talk about football in general. What was the principles I work with, and how I do it, and and how he could help best possible, because at the end of the day, I think that's what he's most interested about. When we had the discussion with him, I think that was, he was mostly interested in the football part. I think that's because he wants to come here and he wants to see if he can win. But it's not for Thomas. It's never about if Thomas wins with Whitecaps. It's with if the Whitecaps can win with Thomas.
Yeah, very.
For a guy like for a guy like Kenji Cabrera, I would guess practice like a long break like that, and he was away for a lot of it with his country. But a guy like that anyway would benefit from extended training. A guy like Müller, he's so experienced. He's got so much knowledge and know-how. I almost wonder if he would be best served playing games to get better with the team. Like, does the 2 weeks help him, or do you think you're able to manufacture something constructive for him, or is he just going to have to learn how to play with this team through games?
Both. I think that you're right, that he also needs games. He also played the full game last time, and I think, but I think Thomas has, he has the career he's at, and that gives him the confidence that he knows that he can prevail, but he can also fail in game moments, and he's not afraid of that. Not everything is perfect when you're a football player, and he just wants to get into the rhythm and wants to play his part on the pitch best possible. And I think that's a big strength. Young players, they're a little bit more often hesitant about actually just doing enough, because they're a little afraid maybe making mistakes that can cost the team. And that when you're on the football pitch, you make good things, you make some bad things, but in the end, you just put everything out there, and Thomas does that, and that's also why he could play the full game against St. Louis. And I think he had good training sessions that helped him, but in the end, I also know that he lives for the games at this moment of his career. But that's another thing.
He sounds like he's already a coach on the field, so to speak, Jesper.
Yeah, he is. It's natural for him. He was in Bayern for many years, and he also is here. He helps his teammates. He always direct them. That's also why it's very, very important for us in the coaching staff to involve Thomas in what we've been doing, so he knows that when he's communicating with his teammates, that he knows that this is what we're supposed to do, and this is how we are doing it. So that's very important. Yeah,
well, and it reminds me, years ago, someone with MLS, a coach told me the key thing about designated players is not just that they perform. You expect that they get the best out of those around them, because they're typically accustomed to playing with a different caliber of players. So how they adapt and how they sort of integrate the guys around them is that's the ideal DP. And it sounds like he's already doing that.
Yeah, he is. He is, and this is nature. Thomas don't need an armband to be a captain, but he got one anyways. Now, right out, but he doesn't. He it's natural for him, because he's so engaged. He wants to win, and one of the ways he knows in football you win is by not only play the best you can yourself, but also help your teammates play the way that the team wants to, and that's a really big strength he has.
Philadelphia poses quite the bit of opposition for you this weekend. Do you dangle the supporter shield in front of them right now? Have you talked about that with the guys at all? Are they talking about it, do you think? Or are eyes more just on the Western Conference and making sure you finish as high as possible there?
Yeah, we've not been talking about that at all, but maybe we should. I have a day left, so maybe we can talk a little bit about it today. No, I don't. It's not that important. Of course, we know that it's a very good team we're up against. Who comes in here and play BC plays tomorrow, and but we're up for it. We're ready for it, and I know the players who's been away are looking forward to come back and be strong last part of the season here.
Jaden Nelson coming back. Jaden Nelson coming back from Canada. He seems to be a guy right now, both for club and country, that has his chest out. And he wants to make a difference for you guys every single day. He has a high expectation, it seems, of himself.
That's a good thing. So I think that maybe we can use that when we play.
Yeah,
yeah. But I think that a lot of players have that, and that's a good thing. And Jaden obviously has done very good things for us as of late, and also for Canada when he come in on the pitch. So yeah, let's see. We all have to have our chest up, especially against Philly tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, he's infectious. His energy is infectious, yes. To be fair, with Jaden. Lastly, for me, Coach, boy, you come in, you replace a popular coach. It's not like you had long history with the directorship here of the Whitecaps. You guys were getting to know each other. You lose your best player in the second game of the season. You do all this winning. You get to the CONCACAF Champions League final. And then here comes this global international superstar. It's been quite a first season for you, Jesper. Have you sort of paused to take stock of everything that has happened for you here in your debut with Whitecaps FC?
It has been quite a season. It has been quite it's 8 months. And I just feel grateful for all the good things that has happened here, and I didn't expect it. I didn't expect a season like this, not by any means. So I think it's not something that I stop and pause and think about. But when people mention it to me, I really look back and also appreciate the unbelievable experiences we got throughout this season, whether it was in Costa Rica or Mexico or Miami, wherever we got him, and also in the MLS. So I think it's been it's definitely going to be a season I'll look back with great pleasure on. Let's see how it ends, but yeah.
Let's wait 3 more months, maybe. Maybe it'll last another 3 months.
The last memory of a season is the last thing you did. So
that's right.
Let's hope it will last long.
Well, this one's going to take a full chapter in your book, Jesper. Your team has been great fun to watch, highly entertaining all season long, and as Blake notes, the best may yet be to come here. Wish you good luck tomorrow and the rest of the way. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Karlsson Price from the historic Wall Center. Big game downtown. Make it more than just a night. Make it a memory. There's a couple of big games downtown this weekend. Stay steps from the action here at the Sheraton Vancouver Wall Center with an exclusive Karlsson Price rate. Call 604-331-1000. Mention us. Some blackout dates supply. Subject to availability. I want to spend a minute here on the BC Lions because I don't think we can overstate how big a game this is for them. 7 p.m. BC plays tonight against the Ottawa Red Blacks. And honestly, Blake, I think this is a bigger game for Amar Doman and ownership than it is for management and the coaching staff with Ryan Rigmaiden and Buck Pearson year 1. But Doman here in year 4. And the sad part is if they lose this one, and we've talked about it, they will fall out of a playoff spot behind multiple teams if that is the case. It's going to look like another backward step from the backward step they already took last season.
Yeah.
Right? Because you were 2 years in a row in the West Division final. Couldn't beat Winnipeg. It's a damn good team. Last year, you couldn't get to the West Division final. And I can't imagine that's going to be easy for Amar. They've got 3 consecutive home games, a bye in between the second and third in late September and October. And I'm not sure how the crowds look at those games if they lose this one. You'll have the Canucks starting up. You'll have the Whitecaps headed to the playoffs. So lots at stake here for the Leos. I think if they're going to continue to be an interest engaging the BC sports public, they got to win this one. And let's face it, they should. Like, Ottawa's not a great team. You got them on a Friday night Pacific time zone. Now, the Red Blacks did fly out Wednesday, so they've had 2 days to time adjust. But it's backup quarterback again, Dustin Crum. And he threw for 100 yards and a TD last week in a win. If you can't beat Dustin Crum in 2 tries, you're probably not even a playoff team in a league where 6 of 9 make it. So
September 12th.
Huge stakes tonight for the BC Lions.
September 12th, and they have 2 home wins. Like, the season started in mid-June. They have 2 home wins.
And to be fair, they've had more of a backloaded home schedule, but it's 2 and 3 at home.
It's still 2 and 3 at home. Last week, it was just so crushing, not only the circumstances and the opponent, but just mathematically. Like, if they win that game, they're 6 and 6.
And they're in a great spot.
And you kind of start over and you think, okay, now we win our final 6. Not sweep it, but I mean, you have a winning record in your final 6, and you're in good shape. But instead,
if they hold on to that one, they got 4 at home for the rest of the year.
Like, you go 4 and 2, you're in great shape. You're making the playoffs, no problem. You feel good about yourself. But now it's going to take you 2 weeks to recover from that, because you go from being 500, if you win, to being 2 games below. You're going to have to win the next 2 games in a row to get back to 500 and then look optimistic. Like, they just made so much work for themselves. And another game that should have been dead and buried, right? Like, that you didn't put away. You let them off the hook. Yeah, I don't want to live in the world where they lose this game.
No, I don't either.
I don't want to.
I don't either. Seahawks into Pittsburgh Sunday, and head coach Mike McDonald is already upset with a couple of defensive starters. Second-year linebacker Tyrese Knight. He was supposed to be the solution after they struggled so much at that position last year. He was benched early in that San Francisco game. Cornerback Reek Woolen, who's a very good player, but he got on the wrong side of coach for soft plays down the stretch as the 49ers were coming back to win. Not making that play in the end zone on the game-winning touchdown. Boy, I don't want to live in a world if the Lions lose this game. I don't want to live in a world where the Seahawks are bad on defense, Blake, because I don't see them being an offensive juggernaut. So if they're bad on defense, it's going to be a long year.
Cannot be bad on defense.
No.
I mean, that was going to be the salvation for this team to make the playoffs.
2-1 wins, right?
Yeah.
You get a lot of goals.
Yes. Yeah. No, the Seahawks parallels are there.
They're there. So very early for the Seahawks, but 2 really big games here for the football teams of BC's fascination. Lions tonight, Seahawks Sunday. Jays and Mariners both win, and thanks to Toronto's win over Houston, Seattle is tied for first place with the Astros. They've won 6 in a row. It's the latest in a season they've had at least a share of first place since their magical year of 2001.
They continue to play thrillers, too. My goodness.
10th walk-off victory that's tied for the Major League lead. This time it was rookie catcher Harry Ford at the dish. Sir Harry Ford, as they're calling him. He's a British national. Harry. Boy, it would be awesome if his bat is ready to play. He has been a top prospect for Seattle for some time, a top 50, top 100 overall Major League Baseball prospect. If he's ready to go and you can spell Cal Raleigh and let him DH a little bit more, not have him go through the defensive responsibilities on a night-to-night basis at catcher, that would be fantastic for them.
By the way, is extra innings working now in Major League Baseball?
I didn't love it when it started, but I understood why they did it, and yes it is.
I think it's in a good spot.
Yeah. Second game of this 4-game set down at T-Mobile against the Angels tonight. They'll face their former Toronto starter as well, Kikuchi. Luis Castillo going for the Ends. They're 2 games up on they're technically in first place via the tiebreaker with Houston, but they're 2 games up on the wild card, which is the hard-charging Texas Rangers. Toronto welcomes Baltimore to Rogers Center this weekend, but tough draw. Trevor Rogers at Rogers Center, who has been a bright light for a bad Orioles club, 8-2 with a 1.51 ERA and a 0.87 WHIP for the big lefty. Toronto will counter with Chris Bassett, still leading the American League. Yankees and Red Sox, you're hoping they beat up on each other this weekend.
But if you're the Jays,
and you've got to win 2 of 3 against a bad Baltimore team, if not get the sweep.
Well,
you're at home.
That's the thing and they've got a pretty stacked schedule the rest of the way. You have to take advantage of the Orioles, and they need a sweep in one of these series to cement this. They need to sweep somebody here the rest of the way. Let it be the Orioles.
They have Baltimore at home, then they're on the road to Tampa for 4, and that's, of course, at Steinbrenner Field, the itty-bitty minor league park, the Yankees complex, basically. Then at Kansas City, who may or may not be in playoff contention then, and then home to Boston and home to Tampa. You're also hoping to be more than 3 games ahead of the Red Sox, Blake, when they play that series, the penultimate series of the season.
Yes.
Because if you are, then you can get swept, and you still will probably win the division. Their playoff probabilities right now, the Blue Jays, is 99%, Blake. Seattle's 92.
I got 99.9. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's not F it up from here, guys.
But playoffs is not what they're looking for.
Jays are absolutely looking for first place. I mean, so is Seattle, don't get me wrong, but it would be a collapse from the Jays to lose it from here.
Yeah.
Seattle, they're trying to surge into that first place. And, of course, 2 teams get a bye, and right now that would be Toronto and Detroit. And the Vancouver Canadiens, I mentioned some of the players were good enough after Sunday's finale to stick around, hang out with some of the team and stadium operations staff, and thank them for the season that was, and good on those young. I'm told it was 12 players now, Blake, so good on them.
One more barbecue.
Absolutely.
To finish off the year.
Seas start next season April 7th at the Nats. Secure your seats for that game, plus all those sold-out summertime games. Call 604-872-5232 or visit CanadiansBaseball.com. Really, really big game in Canadian international sports tomorrow morning. Canada's women's rugby team, the 15s, they went undefeated and destroyed the opposition in pool play at the Rugby World Cup. They face Australia, pretty good rugby nation, in the quarterfinals tomorrow from England on TSN 3. I believe that's 8 a.m. our time. Good luck to Sophie de Goida and Carolyn Crossley from Victoria, Vancouver's Florence Simons as well. They all feature in the starting 15 tomorrow. And in reserve, there is White Rock's Shoshana Suimanutafa.
There you go.
Thank you.
There, women's rugby union, there's about 8. There's a division. There's a drop off after the 8. So when you get to the quarters now, this is rubber hitting road.
Yes.
So Canada should be better than Australia. It should be a victory, but you can't take it for granted. This is going to be a big one.
Yeah, and of course, if they win this one, they'll play for a medal of some form, right?
Yeah.
In the semifinals. A huge development in the world of boxing. Saul Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Bud Crawford, 2 of the best pound-for-pound fighters of the day, 2 of the best pound-for-pound fighters of the last 10, 15 years in the sweet science. They have a mega fight tomorrow on Netflix. And this is an extension of what we were talking about a few weeks ago after that UFC deal with CBS and Paramount, and even after that Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight last November. Boxing and combat sports, wrestling too, even WWE's deal with Netflix, they are moving away from the pay-per-view model and making their fights more accessible. I realize you have to pay for Netflix, but as Mike Rogerson said to us as we were talking about this story earlier off air, he said, you would typically spend more on this fight than what a year's subscription to Netflix will cost you. And it is the most popular streaming service. So this fight is going to be accessible to a whole lot of people who previously would have had to either go out to an establishment or put up, what, $99.99, $129, like those sorts of fees on a pay-per-view basis. It is, well, Dana White's taken a firmer hand in boxing now in terms of its stewardship based on their partnerships now and the big TKO company that has interests across the combat sporting realm. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, I haven't always been the biggest Dana White fan, but I will give him his due in terms of sports business, sports commissioner people. He has taken his sport a lot further than some of the other heads of sport.
Although he is
in this century.
He's playing a fight promoter role to a T, though, isn't he? He got into a big row with a reporter
he needs the long,
other day.
wispy Don King hair. He can't grow that. He's still bald.
You need to be combative yourself if you're a fight promoter, and he has certainly got that part down.
Waving the little flags only in America. Despite the fact Canelo's Mexican.
Did you see Don King makes a character of Don King? I think they refer to him as Don King in the new women's boxing movie that's coming out with Sydney Sweeney.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the trailer.
Yeah, you should see the trailer.
So look, like if this fight isn't Hagler Leonard, you'll remember how big Hagler Leonard. This is Hagler Hearns. Whoever wins this is going to have a pretty good claim to being the best pound for pound fighter.
How old's Canelo these days?
He's
getting on, isn't he?
See, the crazy thing about Canelo is he was a professional fighter at like 15 or 16 years old. So when
he's old. He's old. He's 35.
Is he 35?
Yeah.
So when he was on his way up, like he was really young and knocking guys out. Not too dissimilar than Iron Mike himself. Anyways, very much looking forward to this. And for a sport that has sadly, Blake, needed some sort of life, some sort of juice and energy. I mean, it's been bypassed by MMA.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well,
like, who would have thought? The biggest boxing fights are still bigger than the biggest MMA fights. But the rest of the sport, the week to week, and the people who turn out for UFC fight cards versus the interest in week to week boxing is.
But if a fight on Netflix doesn't do well,
no, exactly.
I think the sport is.
I think
trouble.
they think there's going to be like 30 million people watching this.
Yeah,
fight.
we'll see.
In fact, they're a little bit worried about the Netflix connectivity after they had the issues with the Tyson Jake Paul fight.
Yeah.
And lastly, the World Track and Field Championships from Tokyo this weekend, where Canada's looking good to medal in a number of disciplines led by the BC contingent. You got the Olympic champion hammer throwers, Ethan Katzberg of Nanaimo, Cameron Rogers of Richmond. Also, our boy, Olympic medalist, race walker, Evan Dunphy of Richmond. There are a few better characters in Canadian sport than Evan Dunphy.
Ready to help anybody with the runs.
He sure is. He sure is. He's run for office. He doesn't run. He walks. But he's run for office.
But if you've got the runs, he'll help you.
Mm-hmm. Also a big fan of Kraft Dinner. Remember we got his Kraft Dinner sponsorship and he said to us, yeah, guys, I think it's a little on brand, don't you? Shot putter Sarah Mitten, decathletes Pierce Lepage and Damian Warner, Marco Arop in the 800 meters, and then, of course, the sprinters, Andre DeGrasse, Aaron Brown, Jerome Blake, British Columbian, Brendan Rodney, the defending Olympic champions in the 4x100.
That was one of my favorite moments of the Olympics, honestly. I love a 4x1, and when Canadians are good at it, it's so fun.
Oh, and of course, the Americans were supposed to win everything there. They had all that great lineup, and Canada was an afterthought. And then we just had 3 fantastic exchanges.
Yep.
With world-class sprinters who did their best, even if they weren't necessarily 100-meter finalists.
4 8 out of 10 was better than 2 6s.
And as they talked about, the teamwork and the harmony between all 4 guys, the lack of egos.
Yeah.
Kelowna's Jerome Blake, a part of that. So looking forward to seeing if they can repeat here at the Worlds. Results from our Redwoods Golf Course poll question on Thursday asked you, how many seasons does Quinn have left in Vancouver? I know you were following along, so I won't have you guess. Many more got 54% of the vote. One season got 32% of the vote, and 2 seasons got 12% of the vote. Grant says there has never been a more all-in season for management and ownership. If they're a bad team, it's an automatic rebuild. If they're middling, everything is in play to make the playoff push. And if they're good, Quinn extends until his brothers are UFAs. One of the most pivotal Canucks seasons ever. That's good analysis, Grant. Roy says everyone needs to chill the F out. Quinn will be here for many more years. Darwin says if they don't bring his brothers here, I'd try to trade him this year. And then Chris goes off the board. He votes for 1.5 seasons.
So a deadline deal next year.
Deadline deal next season. Errors and omissions. I had Delano DeShields on the 94 Expos. He was a Dodger at that point. He was one of the early ones to go. Then the real teardown started in 95. Anything to self-report? Anything from the inbox?
Nothing.
Podcast.
All right, yes.
Yeah,
For
technical.
those of you on Apple yesterday, we think it was confined just to Apple, Mike, or was it?
It was on Apple for about 2 hours.
Okay. We had the incorrect first segment of the show on Apple Podcast listening yesterday. It
Ghost in the
was
machine.
resolved, so you can go and listen to the opening segment from yesterday's show.
We were great.
Properly labeled
You should
now.
probably do it.
Blake was fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the best 35 minutes he's had.
Lost. But back. But found.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Follow on social. That's X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. And, of course, support the community sponsors you hear us talking about. And keep it local.